Hello there, friends. Welcome to the first official episode of the Soul Original Podcast, the SOP, as I'm calling it. Thanks for tuning in. Just so you know, this is a podcast by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, whether you're looking to start a business in the future, or you've already started one, or you're, 20 years into, your journey, there's hopefully something for you to learn from these guests that I have. And trust me, there is a lot to glean from these guests. They've been excellent so far. And our first guest today is Vince Gonzalez. He's a realtor here in the Sacramento, Placer County region, and he's a friend of mine, and he's just an all-around awesome dude. But he is great at networking. He's great at, connecting people, making connections. And so, that's the name of the game when it comes to business, when it comes to starting your own business. I can look back at the last few years for me, and, the connections I've made have been the most valuable thing for Soul Original Media. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Make sure to follow the story on Instagram my handle is @SoulOriginalMedia. I'll be posting clips from this. And if you're listening to this, you can watch it on Spotify, which has video podcasts now, as long as you're on Wi-Fi, I think, and YouTube, obviously, as well, on the Soul Original Media YouTube channel. So other than that, you're probably listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for listening. And if you could leave a rating, that would help this podcast grow and gain some momentum. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, here is Vince Gonzalez. I am your host, Corey Besmer, and with me today is our first guest, Vince Gonzalez.
Nice. It's
Clap it up.
Thank you for having me.
The crowd goes wild.
Oh, man, this is going in history.
Yes. I appreciate you coming out here.
Thanks for having me.
I've known you, I think, for like 2 years now.
I think so.
Through the Roseville Chamber.
Yep. It's a good group. Shout out to the Ignite group within the Chamber.
That's right. Cool. And, you're in real estate. You have been for a while. So, tell us about yourself. Tell us about kind of your story.
Yeah. 8 years in real estate now. Started in 2015. Have always done it full time. It's definitely been a journey. I think it's one of those things where probably most industries you get into not really fully understanding everything or really knowing what to expect or what that journey is going to look like. You kind of just get in and
you said you've always been full time. Like,
yeah.
When did you take that leap?
2015. I've always worked, employed, your typical 9-to-5 type job. And real estate was not something I ever thought would be an actual career or an actual job. I always thought it would be part-time, or that's something that you do out on the side type thing. And but an opportunity came up with a team within Keller Williams Realty. At the time, teams were pretty common. They're still pretty common. They're all different sizes. You work for a team, and usually the agent runs a team, blah, blah, blah. So the opportunity came up, and I interviewed for the team, and it seemed like a good fit. So I was like, sure, why not? Give it a shot. So it started in 2015, and I've been a residential real estate, realtor since.
Nice.
So it's been interesting.
Real estate seems hard. Like, I don't know, at least for me, I'm a natural introvert, more of a creative and stuff. And it's taken me a long time to learn like the business side of things.
Right.
I've learned that a big part of it is just who you know and who knows you.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. There are layers to it. There's this part of probably any business, finding the clients, servicing them, setting expectations, blah, blah, blah. Doing ethical, the right thing, as a business owner. There's all types of ways to run your business. So, for me, it's always been doing it the ethical way. And then the back end of things, the bookkeeping, the expenses, money coming in, what's coming out, taxes, blah, 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 payroll, blah, blah. So there's marketing, what the video looks like, what the photos look like.
You say the ethical way. What do you mean by that, I guess? Because I feel like, a lot of realtors can get the reputation of being like sharks sometimes.
Right.
But I talk to you and I'm like, this guy's a naturally nice dude.
Appreciate that. I think anything that you do in business, any business you're doing, whether, you're open, you're pouring concrete or you're doing landscaping, you're a painter, realtor, financial advisor, you're guiding your clients. You do it so much, you have that experience. So usually people come to you asking you or letting you know this is the service they need. What are my options? So especially if it's commission based, I think it's really easy to worry about the money first versus what the need is for the client. So I did realize that early on, right when you start, you're running your own business. There's no one watching you, So it's like you have full control on how it's going to go from start to finish. So I think anyone can fall into that issue, where it's like you're just so worried about commission. We all have bills to pay. We all need the money. So that is important, but luckily, when I started with Keller Williams Realty, they taught you to run it like a business. You're working like a 9 to 5, even though you don't have to work a 9 to 5. Yeah. If you're working a 9 to 5, the business is coming in, so you're not as prone to worrying about the commission so much. You're constantly working, so you're constantly getting clients. Doesn't mean you're not taking each client serious, but you're not just so stuck on the commission. You're so this has to close. So for me, it was important to get that part down, the business structure side of it, on consistently getting business, so you don't have to worry about every single commission so much. Gotcha. So it was hard the way I started. I started as an in-house sales agent for a team. So basically, I would show up. This was before I got licensed, actually. I would show up and I would say if there's a home that just got listed on the market, I would call the neighborhood. I don't know how many people I would call around the neighborhood, 100 people, 200 people each day sometimes. You'd probably get about 20, 30 contacts, and then those could eventually get leads. So I was doing that every day. So I got to learn pretty quick communication, how to talk to people, what not to say. The just picking up the phone and talking to people that you don't know, cold calling, that you get over really fast. So it was hard. I didn't really enjoy that part of it to start. That's not what I had in mind.
Those seem like the things, the necessary evils you have to do to start, right? Mm-hmm. Cold calling and stuff. Mm-hmm. How long was it before you gained some momentum?
Well, I think making that many phone calls daily consistently, within the first month, I think you start getting clients, because that's pretty much all you're doing. You don't have to do anything else. I wasn't licensed yet. I was working for the team. So I was just doing that all the time. So you get results really fast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is a lot of it following up?
Yeah.
With your cold calls? So
there's actually a really cool stat around that I share all the time. It's like 78% of your closing comes from follow-ups. So if you're not doing your follow-ups, you're losing a whole opportunity of closings. So follow-ups is probably one of the most other important part other than lead generation. So that should be fit into your schedule.
I actually used to work for a real estate coaching company, and my old boss used to say the fortune is in the follow-up. I think you would probably agree with you there.
Which it's uncomfortable. I don't think it's natural to do that. So I think it's something you do have to work towards to get used to doing, because you get a lead and then you're ready to call them and you're like, well, I don't really want to bug them. I'll call them tomorrow.
Cold calling in general. Seems terrifying to me.
And it was crazy because it is like training for battle, because you show up every day and you have to mentally get ready. There's even this trick too that we do. You put a mirror in your wall right there, and it makes you smile, because if you're smiling while you're talking to someone, it's going to come off on the other side of the phone. So there's all these little tricks that kind of get you ready for battle, I think.
Sharing all your secrets.
Yeah. Which that's not something complex. It's just easy. If you do them, you have a higher chance of connecting with clients. And that's the other thing too that I always like to make clear, or when I'm helping newer agents, is that sales, like especially scripts, shouldn't be used to trick someone. It should be used to consistently communicate to someone. Yes. So when someone asks you a question, you're not fumbling, trying to figure out what to say. It's like you're studying your scripts to communicate clear. I think that's probably another thing that's misused in sales, is they're studying all their scripts to trick someone in car sales or home sales or whatever it is.
That was something that when I was starting my business, learning sales and marketing and stuff, I just hated the idea of trying to sell someone, because I had this picture of my mind of that sleazy salesman trying to trick someone into like buying your product. But really, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is like be really genuinely focused on helping people.
Yeah.
And be willing to, let, people go if they're not the right fit.
Exactly.
If you're not going to be helping them, right?
100%. Yeah. And I think as a professional, you should be training in things to make you more professional, since you're the one guiding the client. Especially, I always thought in home sales, it's most people's largest asset. So it was my duty to learn as much possible to communicate clear. I just think that's not important to most professionals that have businesses. Like, we need the business, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You got bills to pay. But I was like, I think it's important to take the time to focus on that and really try to master as much as possible. So this way, when you have the business, it's going smooth and, you're helping people to the best abilities possible, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was definitely a journey. Really hard, I would say, my first 4 years, just rewiring everything that I knew, and really pushing myself to get out of my comfort zone, which is not crazy. I felt that I was in a room all day long. Like, how hard is this? Like, compared to other jobs out there, this is one of the easiest jobs you can do. You got the AC going. It's like, how bad is it? If someone curses you out, you're not going to die. So I felt that even though it was mentally draining at times, it wasn't the hardest job in the world. It's like, really, I can do this. Like, it's
just
all
overcoming.
It's like fighting yourself.
It's all in the.
You're your
in the
biggest
mind,
hurdle at times, right? It sounds cliche, but yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. So I'm hearing communication is a big deal.
I think as I get older, I'm starting to see how important that is in every aspect of your life. I'm 34 now. I was about 26, I think, when I started the time. And was my communication skills really good at that time at 26? I don't know. I don't think so. I probably assumed I was really good at communicating, whatever, blah, blah. But yeah, there's a lot of little techniques that I think you can learn, especially there's so much content out there now. It's not about, I was just at a real estate big conference a couple weeks ago, and our owner, CEO, Gary, was talking about how it's not about if you can find the content anymore. It's like back in the 80s trying to find books and videotapes to learn. It's like the information's out there. It's just, do you want to learn now?
Yeah, there's no excuse not to learn how to do anything anymore.
YouTube.
Just go to YouTube.
It's like, everything's out there.
90% of everything I've learned about video has been from YouTube.
Yeah, and you type in, how to shoot.
And just business, Yeah.
Anything you type in, there's probably going to be 50 videos on that one topic. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to talk about your world famous networking events. Maybe Placer County famous. Yeah. Because I've been going ever since you started them back up. Did you can tell me, but did you start them before COVID and then restarted them, or coming out of COVID, did you have the idea?
I've always done some type of networking, especially through the Roseville Chamber. That was probably my first intro to what networking looks like.
But as far as Placer County business connection,
the mixers I do.
Yeah. Just for our audience, you throw these events once a month where you just blast it out to everyone. You do a great job with your videos, by the way, that I'm pretty sure you just film yourself on your phone, right? And I think you have probably a nice little template that mixes the footage really exciting,
exactly, like
with some music,
quick little short 30-second of something, I think is better than nothing.
I'm curious to hear how you've reached people with that on social media and stuff. But
Yeah.
tell me about those. What was the driving force behind starting
Yeah.
the Placer County Business
Um,
Connection?
I always say I'm just really good at just keep staying consistent. I don't know if I'm the most knowledgeable at networking. I don't know if I even do it the best. I just know I can do it most consistent, and I think since I failed so much, you can probably learn something out of that, So I can always say, these are all the things I failed at. I first tried to do this and blah, 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 and this is what I'm doing now. So I don't even know if it's the best model yet, but I'm just going to keep going until it works,
Yeah.
There's a lot of failing all the time, but it's like, well, this is the story. This is kind of what I've been doing so far, and this is what I'm hoping to do,
A lot of failing, but,
Yeah.
I'm sure that failure has made you better.
I'm hoping so.
Right?
I'm still failing all the time right now, trying to figure it out. But yeah, you learn something along the way if you just keep going at it. It's like you're going to learn, It's like people always say, well, how many closings are you doing? You should do more closings, which I hope to keep doing more closings and learning to do it better and doing it more better in the niche community that I want it to do it in. I failed in so many different ways of how to do real estate and how to get clients is that wasn't really important to me. It was just important to find the lane that I felt I can serve clients the best in, whether it's door knocking, circle calling. There's 100 ways to get clients, postcards, classes. So I wanted to try a lot of them, as many as possible, until I found something that really clicked, I felt. Because I used to do a lot of the door knocking, a lot of the circle calling, which is really sales heavy. Open houses, I still do open houses. My first 2 years since I was on teams, I probably did, I don't even know, 10 closings my first year and then like 13 closings the second. And I think the height was up to like 22 closings, 23 closings like that or something like that. I forget what the average is in our county, Placer County. It's like my office is right there by Villasport, by the mall in Roseville. And so in Placer County, I don't know, I think it's like 3 or 4 closings on average that the realtor does for the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Something like that. It's pretty low.
That's another crazy thing about being a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so much competition,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to be on it. And I'm sure, like, communication is super key, right?
Yeah. For some reason, it sounds cliche too, but I never thought about the competition. Like, I never really felt there was competition. I'm not a realtor that does the highest volume in the county or anywhere close. I just don't look at the competition. That's never been important to me. It was really about finding the just the niche community that I wanted to get connected with, because to me, it really didn't count. It didn't care about the competition. Once I found my lane, I was getting consistent closings. Then it really didn't care about the competition. I do learn. I think copy and duplicating is really important to me. Like, instead of trying to figure something out, seeing what other people are doing that works and copy that. So I do pay attention to what other realtors are doing. That's why I just came back from the convention, but not being discouraged by it. For example, like with the Roseville Chamber, when I first started, I started around 2018 in the chamber. Usually when you go to those mixers, there's probably the most realtors there. Realtors, insurance agents, and probably financial advisors are the top 3. So instantly you go to your first one, there's like 5 other realtors. So that can be discouraging when you start, where you're like, oh, there's already 5 realtors here. One's on the board, but I'm probably not ever going to get business. But I don't think it's really about that. I think it's about, or from what I've noticed, it's about who you can make the connections, build the most rapport with. Then you're probably going to get that client or get that connection. I'm 34, so I probably won't make as many connections or rapport with other professionals in the adult living communities or, 65 and up. I'm probably going to connect with someone more my age. So say if there's 3 other agents that are more in that demographic, they're going to have that demographic. I'm probably going to have a demographic closest to mine.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, because you're going to connect with them.
Yeah. If I meet another Christian that goes to church, I go to church here in Rockland. So it's like I'm probably going to make a better connection with them versus anyone else, the realtor that's not a Christian or something, whatever it is. So even though there's competition, there's still a ton of room to do business.
Oh, yeah.
And you do.
Totally.
run across that with other business owners where you can feel it, where they're like, hey, this is my space.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not allowed in here. What are you doing
okay,
here?
it's all right. Yeah, there's plenty of work to go around.
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually, with all the networking that I've done over the last 8 years, I've never really had too big of an issue with that, where it was a really friction with another professional where they're like, like a fight or something, where it's like, or, argument. I've never had that. But I'm sure it happens,
Right. So you haven't been in a big realtor brawl yet?
I don't think so.
Still waiting?
I don't think so. Not yet. I hope not,
Let me know if you need help, backup.
Yeah, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, back to your events. What was the spark? Why did you start hosting these monthly events?
So I think it's normal. When I first started in 2015, you see all the ways to lead generate, to get leads, to get clients, to connect with people. One of the common ways for realtors is to do community events or some type of class maybe, or some type of mixer. So that was something that I actually tried last. I tried doing all the hardest stuff first. I was like, well, let me see what the hardest stuff to do first. Knock that out so that if I do anything else, it'll feel easier. I don't really know if I would recommend that going back. I think I would more say, if I can go back starting, know who you are, know what personality type you are. If you're more behind the scenes, you don't like to be social, cold calling is probably best for you. If you're really social, outgoing, probably networking is really good for you. It wouldn't make sense to do circle calling in a room if you're an outgoing person. It's like, why? It's like, use what you have. So I would probably start that way more. So that's something I started. I tried doing last, probably about 4 years ago. I was like, well, let me try this networking thing. First joined with the chamber, and then I got to meet all the other professionals. So I would go to their events. So I kind of got an idea of what events look like, especially through Keller Williams Realty. I mean, there's so many classes on how to do events. You meet other realtors that are already doing events. I started going to those conventions in 2017, I think it was. So when you go to Austin or these big conventions, you're talking to agents that are doing ton events, huge events. I was just talking to someone who does events at their local baseball game, like their local sports teams, like basketball teams, baseball teams, and they rent out this whole. So other agents are doing huge things. What I'm doing is like nothing. It's like super small. I don't know how exactly they're going to end up, but yeah. So you see that stuff all the time. So I'm like, okay. I'm going to these events. I can probably do something like that. So I started just doing some type of like past client event meetup thing, something small for the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, giving out pies or something like that. They'd show up to the office. I'd have pies for them, some other treats. What else was I doing? I was part of the young professionals group within the chamber. So you kind of help put on events too. You're not the main person putting them on. So I started just really slowly helping with events and then eventually saying, okay, well, I can do this on my own. Yeah, so past client events, and then I started doing the business mixers that were like quarterly. So once I started doing those, I was like, you know what, I should do them monthly. I think it would be able to gain more traction because I think when you're doing quarterly, there's too much of a gap there. So say if you're out networking and you want to invite them to your event, you're like, hey, I got another mixer coming up in December. You should come. It's like September now, and so it's like another 3 months until
That's
December,
right. Your events were aimed at young professionals starting out, right?
Yeah. It was like, what's my niche? I'm 34. Well, at the time I was 32 or something like that. So it's like, well, what's my niche demographic? I want to go deep. So it started as young professionals. But I was meeting so many people that I think it was kind of hindering the growth of the group, where I think it was too niche, and also I think it was good to have a mix in there of experienced professionals in there, as also with the newer or younger professionals in there, to learn to see what they're doing, to network, and especially when you're going for business, you want to be able to get business for everybody. So yeah, I changed it from young professionals to like everybody, aimed at Placer County, because I started with the Roseville office in 2015. So I was like, well, at least let me stick to a certain area. So it's aimed at business owners, professionals, and nonprofits, especially that nonprofit space. That's probably a whole nother podcast. But I really wanted a space for them to be able to get some help in there too. And so it's free. It's not paid. If they want to come out and be the spotlight nonprofit, they can talk about who they are and maybe some needs. So I added that too. That wasn't originally there. So I got that idea from another agent at one of the conventions in Orlando, I think it was. he was telling me about his mixers and how he has a nonprofit in there too. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I love the fact that when you're doing something like this, it has to benefit everybody. So it's not going to just benefit me to get business, but it has to benefit everybody, the location. Like, I don't want it to be a burden on where we're having the mixers. And if you have a nonprofit in there, it comes together for a good cause. So you're not just hanging out and
right, because
making money.
That's a cool thing about it too. You bounce around and get pretty much a new location every time at like typically a brewery.
Yeah, which is the hard part. I was like, it's a lot easier if you just had one dedicated area.
Yeah.
But there's something about me where I'm like, I don't care if it's easier. Like, I want to make it as best as possible.
I love it.
So there's always that back and forth. It's like, well, it'd be easier to have time
you really
for that.
like to challenge yourself.
But it's like, no, let's see how fun we can make this. Like, because I want it to be fun. Like, I don't want to be bored showing up to my own mixer. So I'm like, for me, it'd probably be better if it's at a new location.
Well, also, I think, gosh, I've been to a lot of them.
You've been to a lot of them, yeah.
It keeps it fresh, but also you bring in different people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it'll be in Lincoln, then Roseville.
Pretty much all Placer County. Yeah, I've done them in Roseville, Rockland, Granite Bay, Lincoln, Loomis.
I think it's super smart because it brings the people from that specific area.
Which I didn't plan it that way. Just kind of that was like a benefit of doing it that way. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because if you do one in Granite Bay, you get professionals that live closer there. If you're doing one in West Roseville, you're going to get professionals that live closer there, or their office is right next door or whatever.
But also, I would think it really helps the business owner too.
Yeah.
Just with everyone that's coming in is becoming aware of this place. I'd never been to Slice before.
Yeah.
There in Rockland, and it was great. And I got a beer.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what's been super cool too, which I didn't really plan that part either. Being a realtor, I think it's important to know your community, know the neighborhoods, restaurants, businesses around. So when you're getting clients, you can kind of help guide them on what to expect in the neighborhood. So that's been super cool too, is you get to be face to face with all the business owners, all the professionals in that area. So you really get a sense of the community and what it feels like in that space.
Yeah. I mean, it really does like help everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously it helps you, just with awareness and everything, networking, meeting people.
And I was a little worried. I was like, dang, I don't know if this matches my personality. Like, I don't know if I have the energy to do this many.
Like, you're not like a big MC.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm not really a center of the attention type person. If I could, I would really prefer if someone can host those. But I just don't know anyone that's going to want to host those monthly. It's like, maybe that would be kind of cool to pick a different person every time.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think it's great that you're just yourself. You greet pretty much everyone that
walks in.
It
did take a lot of energy from me when I first did the first three, I think. Where it was like a whole thing I'd had to plan out what I was going to say. But I think after the first three, it became comfortable. I think everything else you do, you get more comfortable doing it.
And now you've kind of, you have people around you that like Nathan, you grab him when you need to get everyone's attention.
There's certain people now that come so much where they have a certain role. So he's good at getting everyone's attention. So that's his role usually. Someone helps me with signing, and it's funny because then you start to learn what your skills are and what skills you don't have. At first I was trying to master every skill, but then eventually you realize, okay, you can't master everything. Just like fill those holes with people that are good at those and like to do that stuff. Right. So I'm like, I'm good at this, but not so good at this. Who else can help with this? And they're happy to help, helps them maybe get some business to connect to.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like you're not expecting to do business with everyone here, but they could be a referral partner, I'm sure. Like,
or even if I don't get a ton of business from those people coming in, it's like I'm not forcing everyone to get business. If they need help buying or selling, of course I'd love to help them. But also too to meet friends in different areas too. It's like, hey, so and so's super cool. He owns that brewery over there. He just moved from so and so. Like, I just met him the other day. That part of it too has been really cool. Like that part of it where I'm like always thinking about business so much where I'm like, oh yeah, too, it's also a social outlet too.
Yeah, totally.
Or it's like you're meeting. And I really like that space too of other creatives in the community. Because like I always have that thing where I'm always thinking something creative. So it's cool to meet other people that are so passionate about what they're doing. Yeah. That's cool to see. Like it fuels me to keep going. Because I think if I'm alone too much, like I start to get burned out. But when I'm out there meeting people and seeing what you're doing, your stuff, it's like, oh, cool. You know what? I can probably do this and this for my business too, or I can do this with, especially like customer service, like the whole start to finish for me in my business with buyers and sellers. That's really important. That I've always been trying to build out. Like even when you go to hotels and you know, check in from like start to finish, what that service looks like. It's always cool to see now how other industries are servicing their clients.
Yeah.
You know, restaurants and blah, blah.
Yeah. I love what you said about, you know, finding other people that are passionate about what they do. Because I mean, no matter what it is, when you meet someone that's passionate about something, it at least for me, it energizes me to like, you know, jump back into what I'm passionate about. You know, it's infectious.
There is
you know,
something
just
about that.
ideas and
Being around people.
Yeah. And that's what these events can do. They bring you together with. I've met people at your events that have kind of inspired me and given me ideas too.
Good.
And
that's
I mean,
good to hear.
you know, just starting this podcast was kind of, you know, part of that too. I've been thinking about doing this for so long, and I know I've had to. And then I started talking about someone who's starting a podcast, and I'm like, why haven't I started one?
And
you know?
I mean, you've had several conversations on stuff like this out for coffee or behind the scenes. So I think it is interesting for people to hear stuff like this. I mean, a lot of people had podcasts. You know, my thing is not ever to come off like I have it all figured out. Like, you know, he's on the podcast trying to act like the, you know, the professional that knows it all. My thing is not the professional that knows it all. My thing is here's an insight of all the things I failed at. Maybe this can help you get into whatever you want to do. You know, it's not, I hate to want to try to be one of those, you know, entrepreneurial, like
a Gary V.
people. No. I would say the opposite. Like, this is what happens when you fail a lot, you know?
No, that's great. Yeah. It's important to stay humble, you know? I'm in the same boat. I'm trying to just teach people what I've failed from and stuff.
And it's not all glamorous, you know? And it's
no.
like, you know, of course you do see the upside when people are successful, but I think there is a level of
like people are going to see this podcast and these social media clips and think we both got it all together and stuff, but you know, we have struggles just like everyone else, and that's 100%. Just social media in general.
100%. And there is something in that struggle I think that is rewarding too, is like when you're struggling through something and then you find even just a little speck of success from something, like that fuels me a lot versus anytime I worked a 9 to 5, which I always make clear too. There's no wrong from working a 9 to 5 or running your own business. I think people are just built to do the different things. I just feel like I'm not built to. This is what I'm built to do. I think, you know, because when I'm doing other things, it just feels like a grind. Like it just doesn't feel good. Like this is not good. Like
it's what you were born to do.
Yeah, like I have to be in that space where I'm able to keep creating things or building things. Like it's draining, but it's really rewarding when you see something click. So I'm still failing a lot, you know, and I'm going to keep failing because I want a bigger business, of course, not really for the money, but more to be able to serve a community more that I enjoy being around. So I think if I get more business, I'm able to connect with them more. Which I ultimately feel is rewarding, you know, meeting people. Like, I think as we've seen with other, you know, you watch those biographies on people's lives, like basketball stars or actors or whatever it is, they get to that space of money and they're still not happy.
Yeah.
So I always thought, okay, that does make sense. And I'm not saying I got to that point. Like, I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But I'm like, okay, so if that is the truth, what happens then? What should you be searching for? You know? So I think that's kind of my thing right now.
I always think about, like, Tom Brady has said after winning multiple Super Bowls that, like, I don't know, I think he was on a 60 Minutes or something, and he mentioned how he still, like, it still hadn't satisfied that whatever inside him.
Yeah.
Dude is a multimillionaire.
Yes.
What, he's won 6 Super Bowls or something? 6 or 7?
Yeah, he's probably one of the top athletes in any sport.
And not to get dark, but like, I always think of the fact that Robin Williams, one of the most talented,
well-known comedians probably out there, and especially in the 90s.
Hilarious, just amazing actor, wealthy. Like, he committed suicide. You know, there was obviously something missing.
And you never know what else is going on, but
but like money, I think the point you're making is not gonna like satisfy that hole in your
Right.
heart, I guess.
Right. And then I can see the other side of it too, where you're also trying to flee or get away from hard work. So you're just wanting to do whatever's fun. So I definitely think it's a balance of like, well, yeah, find what you're probably best at, but not just search the easiest thing. Because you see people bounce around a lot, especially in our industry or profession. You know, we see a lot of people, professionals bouncing around from one thing to another every year, just to flee from when it starts getting into the hard work of things. So I mean, I think I think it's some type of balance, however that looks. I don't know exactly what that looks like, sure. But you know what I mean. Where it's like takes hard work, find what you want, but not just easy. You know.
You got to push through at times. It gets tough.
And then there's probably the other side of working too hard. No days off. You know, working all the time, getting burnt out. That was probably something I did a lot too much for probably my first 4 years. No days off, working hard. I'm like, this thing can't fail. But I think you do end up going in circles.
Yeah, that's something that's, at least for me, it's a continual thing I have to keep in check.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've gotten burnt out too because I'm working too hard, not taking weekends off. And just get to a point you're like, gosh, what's going on? It's like, I haven't taken a break in
I think
weeks.
You need that day to reset and really analyze what's going on. I forget how the saying goes, but
just step away and be with people. And
get a bird's eye view, too, of the big picture. Because then you start getting so zoned in on the small things, you start going in circles, which I think ultimately ends up wasting time.
Something I've also seen with you is, like, you give back quite a bit. You're a part of the Alliance, an awesome nonprofit.
Yep. Shout out to the Alliance nonprofit, Roseville. And great nonprofit.
You've been a part of Lost But Not Forgotten, I believe.
A little bit. I've always helped them. I mean, because I've always known Kevin through the chamber, and Linda. She's so involved with the Roseville that anything she needs help with, I'll just help her with. You know, she's like, hey, we need help with this, and she's so cool to be around and see all the things that she's passionate about.
She's awesome.
Yeah, you know, and it's
my question is basically like, where does that fit in to your business? And I guess, why do you find that to be important?
Yeah, I think it brings balance to everything. I would probably say that's one of the most key things that I had to really start doing. Because I think you can really get carried away in whatever it is your goals are, your business, or whatever in life. You're just so focused on your goals and you and what you need and you and your family, which comes from a good place.
Yeah, it's important. You have to provide, but
but I think it can get unhealthy. And I think when you're volunteering with nonprofits or helping people or helping others, it makes you take your focus off yourself and help other people's what they need help in. Then it starts to just so many things. It seems like the top couple of things it does, though, is really helps you not stress as much because you appreciate what you have, especially when you start helping those in need, families in need, you know, foster kids or whatever the focus might be in the community. It gives you a bird's eye view on what's really important, you know. And so I met a lot of nonprofits through the Roseville Chamber. And once you start helping with the nonprofits or volunteering somewhere, you get to work side by side on what people are doing and seeing the amazing things they're doing in the community. So that's been fun. That's been really cool. I mean, not fun to see other people have to suffer or whatever, but like connect with other leaders that are into that same thing, meet other families in the community. And it's like you're contributing to the wellness of a space that you're in. Instead of just taking back, you know. Blah, blah. So that's been cool. And there's so many nonprofits out there where it's like there's unlimited amounts.
And like, you know, the Alliance, they're doing some amazing stuff for children, families.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and to see someone like that, Tiffany, who starts, you know, a nonprofit like that, to see all the things that she was doing and then all the plans that she wants to do. It's like those are the things I want to be a part of. Those are the people I want to be around. Those are the worlds I want to be around. It's like, man, that's a super cool plan. How can I help with that? Like, I don't know ultimately how I can contribute most of the time, but it's like, man, that's a super cool plan. I can help with this little small thing. I can help with this sign-ins or whatever it is. You know, even on Saturdays, sometimes I'll help or, you know, whatever it is on my free time. I don't know. It's just therapeutic for me. I think it feels like. You know, and I think there's a nonprofit out there for everyone, whatever your thing is that you're into. I think you can find a nonprofit that could definitely use your help too.
Or you got to just start it yourself.
Or even, I mean, and a lot of people think that by giving money, that helps. I mean, that helps too if you have the means to give. But just a little help goes a long way, I think, with those nonprofits.
Yeah, help at their events and just little things in the community that they're doing. You don't have to have any money at all to contribute.
And the interesting thing, right, I think most people think that they say, I can start helping once I have more time, or like my later season, I'll probably have more time to help. I really don't have the money to help right now. I have a full-time job. So maybe when I get a little bit more established in my job or a little bit more money, then I'll be able to help. We talk about that all the time in our small group at church. It's like, well, it's never going to come to a point where you're going to be fully ready, like satisfied. It's like, just start helping now. It's probably actually going to be harder to start helping or giving or whatever it is if you wait longer, because then now you have more responsibilities and you have more of this, and it's going to be a little bit harder. So I would say just start somewhere now, and help with whatever you can, and then build from there.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing your faith helps motivate that too. I mean, you're a believer. I'm a believer. We've talked about it a little bit, and that's a big driving force. I'm sure as well.
Yeah, definitely. And meeting all those, Christian folks in the community and seeing all the things they're doing, meeting people from all the different churches, the Bridgeways. I'm at Doxa, Baysides. There's so many church around Placer County. Yeah. There's so many amazing people in that space too, or other Christian professionals that you meet around the chamber. So that's definitely one of my big goals, is to support, folks around that community, professionals around that community. I'm part of other networking groups in the Christian space. So I think just connecting with, people that you have common things, things in common with, I think it creates a deeper relationship, So that's a whole probably another podcast too, on how that goes hand in hand with, what you're doing for works. For me, it's not, about the works. It's like, how are you glorifying God through the works you're doing, which that's a whole, we can talk 3 hours on that.
We'll talk about that in the theology podcast. We'll start together.
On our small group on Tuesday, we had a whole 2-hour conversation on one, topic. It's awesome. Hilarious.
Cool. So we're about to wrap it up. But before that, I was curious, where do you want to be in 5 years with your business, with your events, and just with your giving, I guess, with with the Alliance or whoever. Just what are some of your goals within the next few years, basically?
I think those monthly mixers are turning into a space where people can go for if they need to connect with someone or get a word about what they're doing, a word out. Especially local council has been coming. We had the mayor out for the last one. Coming out to talk a few words about whatever it is that's going on in the community. I'm not saying it's going to be the main point of the community ever, but something like that more feeling's fun. I never wanted it to be just about going out and partying and networking, which I'm not saying is wrong. There's a lot of those, and I go to all types of networking events. But for mine, it was more about, if you needed something, go to Vince's networking event to plug in for that need. I'm looking for volunteers for our nonprofit event in Roseville, blah, blah, or wherever it is. Vince, can I come out and talk about this event? We have a nonprofit. We need backpacks. Can I come talk about this event? I'm starting this nonprofit. I don't know who to connect with. I'd love to come out and meet the other nonprofits there. You know what I mean? Having a space that's a safe space to come out to improve or to grow in the area, whatever you're looking to do. What that exactly looks like, I don't know. But I definitely want to keep doing those monthly. I don't want to stop doing those. I hope they don't stop,
Well, one of yours that was awesome and that was a little different was the one at the Venture Lab. I mean, with all the different businesses being featured and stuff, and that was a pretty big turnout.
Yeah, and it's a bigger space, so you're able to do something like that.
Is that something you want to do more of?
I don't know. I think it keeps it interesting to change them month to month. Because I do like 3 of those big ones a year. Like Adventure to the Lab, it's this huge space, where we can do something bigger like that, where we had 7 tables, for different professionals in the area or nonprofits. We run around the room and start at one table, and they would talk about who they are, what they do. It's like 1 minute thing, which is pretty common. Even the Roseville Chamber, the breakfast, you're able to talk about 30 seconds on who you are, what you do. But they're able to have a booth and kind of showcase a little bit of their personality and who they are, or a little bit of their world. A quick 1 minute of who they are, insight, I would say. So those definitely have a huge sense of community, because when you're out, when we have those, a little bit of everyone's there and there's more people. But I think I think I'm going to get more into the space of getting more creative with every single one, so they're not all the same. Like, instead of doing those every single time, I have a few ideas for the next ones coming up, where it's going to be like in stages, where it's like you show up. You're going to get a quick word in from the nonprofit before you go into the main room, like in front of the space or inside of the lobby space. That's and then cool. Maybe have a tasting of some new restaurant that has a food. Before you walk in the space, you walk in for the space, and then you're
full experience.
Yeah, like kind of like
awesome.
different, something to create something interesting. Again, for me, I hate doing the same thing over and over. Yeah. So I like to create something different. But then again, though, creating a space that ultimately, how's it helping everyone? Like maybe a new restaurant that's opening up, maybe they have some sample things that they've been wanting to try out. Because sometimes I do get restaurant owners, we'll talk, and they're like, man, I have this idea for this type of experience, like at a winery, or maybe something like this in a space, like in a speakeasy in front. It's like, but they don't really want to do that, and I don't have control over other events. So I'm like, well, I have control over my events. You can do that at mine. Right. We can do that at the first part before everyone walks in and blah blah. So something kind of like that, where it creates a fun space to also get needs met, where it's not so professional. Like, I'm not saying those are bad either, but I don't know, something kind of like a hybrid, professional, community, and like casual.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out too.
Yeah.
So something like that is probably coming up, or going to keep evolving into something like that. And then probably the locations are going to, I think, get better too. Like, I've got some pretty cool ideas on where to do those mixers at, which keeps it interesting, especially for the different seasons. But then again, too, I'm not an events planner, so it's like I also have a real estate business.
Yeah, you can't just do that 24/7.
Yeah, so that's probably the next stage, help someone with those events. Where it's, if I'm out at a showing or a listing appointment or whatever it is. With those.
It's worth mentioning, this is all free.
Right.
These are free events you're putting on.
Which they pay for themselves, because we have sponsors.
I would still go if
I started charging.
Yeah. Because they're great. So.
Start charging $50 now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at everyone for $50. Yeah. I don't know.
No, and it's cool too, because that is, you have that whole community of folks, local professionals. So that has really helped me in my business, my real estate business. Anytime I have a buyer, they need a moving company. I have a moving company that I work with, I know really well. So that's been a really cool benefit of doing those two. It's like, these are the people you trust. They've helped hundreds of your clients.
It has come around full circle to help your business? Have you started to see that? 'Cause
right.
It is a long game. I'm sure, not after the first one.
Right.
You see, your business just take off.
Exactly. And that's probably something important to get in real quick, is the technical side of things. Is when I started in sales, I was doing calls. So that's, 40 contacts a day. So I figured if I can get that many contacts a day doing something else to get business, what else does that look like? So with events, if you go to a mixer, there's, 60 people, 80 people. It's really easy to get 20 to 30 contacts. So I think you do have to be purposeful about what you're doing to get business. You can't do these for free. You still have bills to pay, and you need to make money. So I think if you're purposeful, showing up, and then again, it's a balance too, not only being about the money, but being purposeful about finding clients. It definitely works. It's proven to work. This is not a model that I've made up. People have been doing this for years. I'm just coming back and actually implementing it locally. But at least 20 contacts a day, doing your follow-up, time blocking your day. You should be starting your day at the same time, leaving work at the same time. So I usually try to start as early as possible. I go to the gym in the morning. So this way I can start at 8 a.m., 7:30 a.m. on whatever it is I have to do my follow-up calls, setting up showings, looking for new homes, doing my marketing for sellers, blah, 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 whatever. If you're able to knock that out early, you're more likely to do it, I think. So it's like luckily I got that whole structure down when I first started day one, because I had to when I was dialing. So now I that mixer, the networking part is built into the schedule. So people are like, man, you're everywhere. It's like, well, that's actually part of the job. It's built in my schedule, 2 hours a day, 20 contacts a day keeps the doctor away, So if I can get 2 or 3 hours worth of networking in a day, that counts as my lead generation, So it is definitely a strategic way of getting business, and I think you should be professional about how you're following up with people.
And you're really good at following up. I feel like I see you at Foursquare all the time, getting coffee with people. I mean, we did too,
right?
When we first met,
right? Exactly. The owner there is really involved with the chamber, so I was like, maybe I can support that business owner in the chamber through this, having all my coffee meetups there. Shout out to Foursquare Coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's my favorite spot.
He paid us to plug him on this. No. But I don't know. And it's not all about being strategic on everything you do.
Yeah.
But you do need structure, of what you're doing, or that's not going to work. It's not going to work out. So I have the whole typical real estate thing, the database, the follow-up plan, the drip campaigns, the postcard campaigns. I still do open houses, on Saturdays. I take Sundays off for church. So yeah, it definitely works. You bring up a good point. If you start networking, you're probably not going to get business instantly within 2 or 3 events. It's probably going to take up to 6 months to a year.
Because you're building relationships.
Yeah.
Now you have relationships with a lot of these different business owners.
Exactly.
And, they know you. So that
Exactly.
when they meet someone who's ready to buy or sell their house, you're the first person.
Yep, and people are watching too. They're watching what you're doing, how you're talking to people. If you're coming off really professional, like the funny guy at the mixer, it's fun, it's funny. But I don't know if people are going to refer you business, or you're probably going to attract people, business that are that style of person, which again, not right or wrong. I don't know. For me, it's always been important to keep it really professional too, even when you're at networking events, and not just to show, but when you're coming across people, like, you should be professional. It's like, not that you can't have fun, because there's space and time for everything. But and it takes a certain personality, I think, to be able to do business that way. So I'm like, this might work, and let's see how it goes. So still figuring it out.
Awesome. Same here.
And appreciate you having me on this podcast. I think that's a great idea for this area. I think there's so many professionals that would love to come and tell their story. Not that they figured it out, but maybe a way to spark someone to do their idea, or to learn a little nuggets from their failures, whatever it is.
Boom.
Yeah.
Love it. That's the goal.
Yeah, love it.
So we'll see where it goes. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being the very first guest.
Thank you.
Here,
that was fun.
Here's to going to 100.
There you go.
And getting, the president on the podcast.
I'll be on the 100th episode.
Yeah. No, I would love to do that,
That would be amazing.
Or bring it back in 20 years.
We'll wear the same clothes too.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Or the one person who's watching this right now.
I'll watch.
Check us out on Instagram at Soul Original Media. There will be clips from this there, and a bunch of advice on videos, and just my entrepreneurial journey. So, and where can people follow you?
Pretty much on all the socials. Instagram, Vincent Michael Holmes, Vincent Gonzalez on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Also
come out to one of your events. If you're Placer County Business Connection.
There you go. Yeah, I have an Instagram page for that. Placer County Business Connection on Instagram and on Facebook. We have a private Facebook group too if you want to join those to see all the events. I also post other events in there.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah. So see you there.
Nice.